Hi, my name's Stacy and I'm one of the owners of Montana Used Bricks. I'd like to tell you my story and why I started my Bricklink store. As a kid, I never played with Lego much. I remember having them, but I don't remember really being into them that much other than maybe building little houses here and there. Um, and then when I had my son, we bought him Lego, and he got into it a little bit more than I did, so he had more elaborate sets, and I played with him a little bit with him, but still wasn't my thing. Years later, we bought a couple of little power digger sets for my grandsons, and they opened them, but they never put them together, and they kind of got put on a shelf, and then later they got knocked off by our foster kittens. And so a couple of years after we had bought them, I sat down to put them together to make sure we still had all the parts for them. And I remember just sitting there putting these little sets together and just having the best time. And I looked at my husband and said, "Do we have any other Lego around here? Because that was fun." And he just kind of rolled his eyes at me. And I mentioned that to a friend of mine the next day, and it was really close to Christmas of 2014. And she went out and bought me a Lego set called Furry Creatures, knowing that we fostered cats and kittens during the kitten season. So of course, that really piqued my interest. Being able to build a cat out of Lego was just incredible to me. And as soon as Christmas was over, I took some of my Christmas money, went to Walmart, and bought three more sets. And after that, I was hooked. I just could not stop buying sets. I knew that my son had, when he was younger, he had had the Star Wars X-Wing, and I asked him if he still had it, and he said, "Well, I have some of the parts for it. It's in a box. And do you want the box?" I said, "Sure, I'll take the box." I got the box. We used Rebrickable to try to figure out if we had the parts for this X-Wing set. We realized we also had parts for the snow speeder, so we decided we were going to rebuild both of those sets. But because this was, a good 15, 20 years later from when he had gotten these sets, he was missing the minifigures and a lot of parts. And that was my first introduction to going on Bricklink, was to buy these parts. I had absolutely no knowledge of Lego or how much things cost or how things worked. At the time, I didn't even know the difference between light gray and light bluish gray, which I found out real quick as I put the snow speeder together, because that is light gray, not the light bluish gray. Once we started getting into buying these, I asked my son, "Can I sell the parts that I don't need in order to recreate this set?" And he said that was fine. And at the time, Bricklink was very easy to set up a store. You just went in and clicked, put in the parts and said, "Okay, open my store," and you can open it. It's not like that anymore, but when I started, luckily that was all it took. And I was amazed that I had a sale within 24 hours of opening my store. I also lost a lot of money on that sale because I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but I learned real quick how to fix that. So that didn't happen again. So slowly we started selling some of my son's parts. We started getting used parts from friends, neighbors, Goodwill, eBay, wherever we could get parts so that we could sell them and then make a little bit of money to be able to buy the parts we needed for his set, which, of course, once I got done with his sets, I started looking around going, "I want to do this. I want sets for myself." So we used Rebrickable to figure out what parts we had and what sets we could build, and we just started going from there. And after a while, the collection grew. My husband thought I was nuts until I introduced him to Technic. And once he started doing the Technic sets, we were both hooked on Lego, and we have been ever since. So really, it's only been um, 6.5 years that we have really been into Lego. He, like me, had them as a kid, but just, it wasn't a big deal. It was Lego, it was parts, whatever. But now, there's these elaborate sets we can build. Our business took off a lot faster than we thought it would. When we first started doing it, I did everything. My husband thought I was nuts because he's like, that's just a waste of time. What are you doing? But then he started to see that we were making a little bit of a profit on it, when I wasn't spending all the money on buying parts from Bricklink. He then took over putting in the minifigures and the Technic parts and any stickered parts into inventory for me, which was awesome. That left me to do all the other parts, and Technic is still one of the parts I don't like trying to figure out where they go and what they do. So I'm happy for him to do that. It only took about 2 years before the Lego started taking over our house. The Bricklink business caused us to have Lego literally in every room of our house except the bathrooms. We had minifigures in the kitchen. We had new parts in our bedroom, and every other room of the house had parts in it. So pulling orders was a nightmare, to say the least. And of course, our storage system changed over the years because when we first started doing it, we were digging through boxes looking for parts. And then I started watching YouTube videos and thought, oh, there's a lot easier way to do this, which is one of the reasons I'm doing these videos, is that I can help people learn from our mistakes, hopefully. Um, Once it started taking over the house, I asked my husband if we could use the cement pad that had been poured prior to buying the house. There was a cement pad poured for a garage, but a garage was never built. So I asked my husband, I said, what would you think about building a garage, but using it for the Bricklink store? And I thought he was going to just roll his eyes and walk away from me like he usually does when I come up with these great ideas. And he goes, that wouldn't be a bad idea, but let's wait. Because this was right before Christmas of 2016. January of 2017, I started calling contractors, and I'm glad I did. We got a wonderful contractor that understood what we were trying to do, and we live in town, which made building permits a nightmare, but this guy stuck with it. We ended up having to pour more concrete and do a lot of other work just to be able to get this shop built. But when we got it done, I was thrilled because it was exactly how I pictured it in my head, and it was exactly what I wanted. And for the last 4 years, this has been our Bricklink store, and I'm very happy to have this space. So that's my introduction to not only Lego, but to Bricklink and the Lego community. I still have a ton to learn. I still love watching YouTube videos of how other people run their stores because I've gotten so many ideas, even recently, on things that I can do to improve our workflow and how to keep things organized and just uh, there's so many issues that come up, and it's just wonderful to know that there are those videos out there to help you through that process. The Bricklink forums are also great. Anytime there's any kind of issue, I've been able to go to them. We do deal in used Lego, so there's a lot of times there'll be these old parts that I have no idea if it's even Lego. So I'll take a picture of it, upload it to the forums, and within like 15 minutes, people are saying, yeah, that's Lego, or no, that's not Lego. And it's awesome that the response you get. The Bricklink community is wonderful, and I can't say enough about it. Yes, there are issues, as anybody who is a seller knows. There's issues with just the site in general. There's issues with some other things, but the people have been wonderful. And if you watch the videos of the people who have Bricklink stores, they're all very outgoing. They're willing to share ideas. In fact, they encourage that. So it's a great community to be in. I do want to say that with a Bricklink store, you're only going to get out of it what you put into it, and a lot of times that's not much. My husband and I work on this a lot. We don't make a lot of money at it, but we make enough that I can rebuild some of the sets you see behind me. And we've rebuilt some sets for him as well. So it does make money for that, and we're kind of looking toward the future. We're going to be retiring in 5 to 6 years, so we're really hoping that we're going to be able to use the Bricklink store as our retirement job when that time comes. And we're really looking forward to that. So that's my story. Go ahead and like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned because I will have some tips and tricks coming up here very soon. Thanks.